The U.S.-China trade war is affecting a wide-ranging variety of industries, and one industry you might not have thought of, diamonds and gemstones. Paul Zimnisky is an independent diamond analyst, and he joins us now to tell us what is happening. Thanks for coming on, Paul.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So this industry is being affected by tariffs because you might not have thought of it. I mean, especially when we talk about China, and I know that China not really the biggest seller of diamonds. So tell us how the tariffs are impacting the space.
Yeah, I think it's more of a sentiment play. It's consumer, driven industry, so consumer sentiment is very important. And I think when you look at what the Trump administration is doing, I think they see it as a negotiating tactic with this kind of inherent hedge that there will be stimulus in China if we don't get a deal, and there'll probably be possibly a rate cut here. So I think that's kind of the way they're viewing it. And then I guess when you specifically look at the jewelry industry, we import less than 1% of our diamonds from China. We import about 15% of the jewelry. So I wouldn't say it's actually going to be on these particular tariffs, but maybe more the macro impact of this and how that affects the the larger economy and then the consumer and consumer sentiment most importantly.
So the 25% tariffs on some of these gems are going to go into effect with a $300 billion good,
that's
right?
Correct.
So that's at the end of June. But to your sentiment point, a lot of these companies, and we have some of these names up like Tiffany's, they do a lot of business from Chinese consumers too. So on that front, what kind of effect has that been in terms of consumers maybe holding back on some of their money or not wanting to buy into American companies?
Yeah, I think there's definitely some of that. When you look at the diamond jewelry industry, it's an $80 billion industry. 50% of the end consumer demand is in the U.S. Approximately 20% is China. And then about 8 to 10% is India. So when you look at China and U.S., you're talking about 70% of the end consumer demand. So it is important. And again, when in December when we saw the stock market sell off,
yep.
Some of the U.S. retailers directly felt that with consumers buying over the Christmas season. So there definitely is sensitivity, and there's definitely a kind of a correlation to this whole consumer sentiment thing. So I think at the end of the day, that's ultimately what's going to kind of impact this industry more so than a tariff on diamonds or a tariff on jewelry.
So a slight pivot to lab-created diamonds, right? Because there's a lot of people are placing this greater emphasis on social responsibility, right? Do you ever see a moment in time, and do you think it's coming soon, where lab-created diamonds actually overshadow mined diamonds?
Yeah, I mean, it's the hottest thing going on in the industry right now. Just to kind of quantify, it represents, probably 5% or less than 5% of, diamond jewelry supply, but it's known, it's exciting, and this industry's kind of been craving newness. So I think at the end of the day, I think about this a lot, and I'm trying to figure out, where we're going to be 10 years from now. And I think marketing is ultimately what's going to determine how successful this product is and how much it kind of overlaps with the diamond industry, natural diamond industry, and how much of it's just going to kind of be a new product category within the jewelry industry. And I think the price point is really what's going to ultimately determine that. And we're kind of in this weird transition period where, these, lab-created diamonds are still selling for thousands of dollars. But I think, in 3 to 5 years' time, almost all of them are going to be selling for under $1,000. So it kind of puts it in that fashion jewelry category. So I think, and that it's kind of funny. It's that really does impact the way the consumer perceives the product. Yep. If they see it being a competing product with natural diamond, or if it's, again, a fashion jewelry or, a different product category altogether.
I'm glad you bring up marketing, because I feel like there are two conflicting narratives when it comes to young people in diamonds these days. As Kristen mentioned, we do hear that lab-grown diamonds are more popular now or gaining more popularity. I don't mean more popular than mined, obviously, if it's only 5%, but gaining maybe hockey sticking in popularity because of the social and ethical concerns. At the same time, and maybe it's been overblown, you can tell us, I feel like you hear that also a lot of millennials no longer want a diamond per se.
I've seen a lot of people have sapphire, they choose other gemstones.
Or a stone at all.
Right.
Some people are doing just different kinds of things. Is that happening, and is the diamond industry concerned about, well, how do we figure it out? How do we market to these millennials and then soon enough to Gen Z?
So my speculation is, so if you kind of go back in the history, look at the diamond industry, a lot of history, a lot of mystery, but when you go back, the last 15 years, the De Beers monopoly was dismantled. And with that, the Diamond is Forever campaign, which was one of the most famous marketing campaigns in history, kind of was discontinued. So we've had like a 10-year period where there hasn't been this, generic diamond marketing campaign, and it was such a powerful campaign, the momentum from the last 50 to 100 years of that campaign kind of carried the industry through. But I think we're finally getting to a point where newer consumers aren't familiar with that campaign, and maybe they have more of a negative association with diamonds. So just last year, the industry kind of came together and formed the Diamond Producers Association, which is an organization to reinitiate generic diamond marketing. And to quantify that, they're going to spend $80 to $100 million this year. If you look at what De Beers was spending, they were spending about $250 million in 2019 dollars. So it's not as big of a campaign as they had back in the day. But the industry is kind of understanding the implication of this.
What's the pitch, though? I mean, is it the price point that you think maybe are turning some of the younger consumers off, or is it just the value of the diamond maybe not really resonating with?
I think it's just the negative PR and again a lack of a coordinated campaign. And I think at the end of the day, again, you look at what's a luxury product and it has to be rare and valuable. And lab created diamonds are not rare and they're not valuable. So I think that's kind of the angle you need to take. And at the end of the day, I mean, humans for years and years and years have valued rare items like gold and like precious stones. So we kind of have that hardwired in us. But I think you kind of need to kind of remind the consumer, kind of push that kind of angle as well. And that's kind of what the industry is doing.
It is going to be very interesting to see what happens in 10 years with that balance of lab grown. So we'll have you back, but probably before then, Paul.
Great.
Paul Zimnisky, Diamond Analyst. Thanks so much. Good stuff.